Hi, I'm State Representative Tim Miller from Minnesota District 17A, and welcome to Legisplaining, where hopefully I can help you understand a little bit more about how your crazy government works. Today, I want to talk to you about omnibus bills. Now, you may know what an omnibus bill is. You don't know what it is. What does omnibus mean? You've heard that before. Really, it's just a big word for a bunch of smaller bills packed together into one larger bill. I can tell you that at any state level, and certainly at the federal level, there are many omnibus bills that happen. In Minnesota, we are in a biennium. Our budget is done for every 2 years, and so our spending bills, those every 2 years, our budget bills, our finance bills, are almost entirely omnibus bills. Now, there is an efficiency to it, and actually there is some sense to it. If we're doing bills that are with the Department of Human Services and we're sending them money in 7, 8, 9 ways, then we're basically just approving their budget and we're funding that. That makes sense. But now it's a Health and Human Services Finance Committee where we have the Department of Health and the Department of Human Services together. So what does that look like? Well, then we bring all those bills for the Department of Health and the Department of Human Services together. Well, that might even make sense for some people as well. But here's the problem with the omnibus bills. What omnibus bills really end up becoming is a way to insert things that I wouldn't personally normally vote for, but it's packed in with things that other people want. Now, we do have to have a majority vote whenever we are discussing a bill, but understand in Minnesota, the majority party, which is the Democrats right now, have enough votes to vote any budget that they want with or without my consent or with my yes vote. And so really what happens is, I hope this makes sense, what happens is we start packing bills in there when it's already going to be passed. So what is the thing that happens next? Well, they start putting things in that are a little less palatable, a little bit more difficult to swallow. This is where, when you talk about lobbyists coming in and special interest groups, they come forward with something that might not be real great, but they get packed into one of these bills. So what does that look like? Well, a typical bill in Minnesota, standalone bill, might be as short as 2 paragraphs, might be as long as 5 to 10 pages. Well, this year in the Minnesota House of Representatives, this Wednesday, we have a Health and Human Services Omnibus bill that's well over 1,100 pages long. Now in Minnesota, we have a constitutional rule that says every bill must be single subject, meaning everything within that bill must coincide with one single subject. Well, you would think that this would take away from the omnibus bills. You would think that would take away from the omnibus bills. Let's start that over again. I had a little bit of a technical distraction, so let me refocus. At 1,100 and some odd pages, you would think that the single subject would all be under the same subject, and it's not. But what the Supreme Court in Minnesota determined was, as long as the title to the bill is the subject that everything fits under, then it's a single subject. Now understand what that means is if there's really 40, 50, 60 different subjects within that 1,100 and some odd page omnibus bill, that as long as they put a title addressing every single one of those 40, 50, or 60 issues in the title of the bill, that's how they make it a single subject bill. I don't think anyone intended for it to be that way, but that's the way the Minnesota Supreme Court determined it. So we do have legislation going forward this year that clarifies that and says, no, single subject means single subject. Well, what does this mean for you? Well, let me give you an example personally from me. I am a extremely outspoken, very dedicated, and very forthright pro-life legislator. I believe it's the single most important issue that we are dealing with in our time. And of course, it's very controversial, lots of arguments. Not everyone agrees with me. But that's where I stand, absolutely for sure. Well, in the Omnibus Bill 2 years ago, Health and Human Services, I voted for it because there was lots of good things that we should be doing, whether it be for our elderly or developmentally disabled adults, or who knows? There's just a lot of different things that are in there. I do a lot of work with anti-human trafficking that was in there. So of course I would support this bill. But buried within that large omnibus bill, there was technically, now this is kind of complicated for Minnesota because the Supreme Court says that we have to publicly fund abortions, okay? But there was a vehicle in which that money has to be put into place, which was in that omnibus bill. So what do? Do I vote against all these good things to stand on that one issue? Certainly want to. You know what I'd rather do is be able to have those bills be separated out so that I could literally vote on the things that I support, vote yes, and the things that I don't support, vote no. With these omnibus bills, you can't do that. Now understand this gives incredible power to leadership, because when they build these bills, they insert things in there that you have no ability to take out. They are there, and you end up voting for, or things get passed and get moved through that people don't necessarily like. And that should bother you, the voter. That should bother you a lot that this is happening. Last year, when the Republicans had the majority, there was a supplemental spending bill. Remember, it's a 2-year budget. I don't know why we have a supplemental bill when we fully funded everyone the year before, but like typical politicians, we find a little bit more money, and of course we have to spend it really fast. Being sarcastic there, I don't really agree with that, but that is in fact what happened. So we have this supplemental omnibus bill, and we crammed everything together from health and human services to agriculture to jobs, you name it. It was all under one bill, and they called it Omnibus Prime. And people campaigned against us for Omnibus Prime. The Democrats said we need to break bills apart and know what we're voting on and vote on them individually. It was about 900 pages long, and I didn't disagree with them. I wasn't empowered in the position to be able to do too much about it other than say we can do better and present some bills, which I have. But we did that. Well, here we go. This year, the Democrats have the majority now. And last year, they're complaining about Omnibus Prime at 900 and some odd pages. And just one of their bills, Health and Human Services, is almost 1,200 pages. What's worse is we have omnibus bills that get put together as they move forward into the House floor. This next week, we are going to be doing several different omnibus bills on the House floor. So when you talk about single subject, what do you think about agriculture and housing being put together? Do you see related issues there? Now, there might be something with housing with agriculture, but in general, a complete agriculture bill and a complete housing bill, those are being put together and being voted on with a single vote. We're seeing multiple other ones, jobs, energy, environment, those are all being put together. Education is being put together. I'm dropping off of my mind right now, but education is being combined with something else. Several hundreds of pages. Now, I do know a lot of what's in there, but it's really easy to sneak things in as well, and that's fundamentally the problem. We can do better as a state. I can tell you at the federal government, they do this all the time too. For those that have been around politics for the last several years, at the federal and state levels, we got rid of earmarking, right? Those earmarks are funding mechanisms to fund a very specific project. It could be a facility in a town. It could be this specific program in this town, whatever. But they're earmarks, and they're meant to be sent back to your district and say, hey, look what I did here. Nobody liked them, so we got rid of earmarks. Well, folks, I can tell you in the jobs bill that we're going to be doing on Tuesday, first blush, 3-4 pages in a row, I saw individual earmarks packed into these omnibus bills. We can do better. We can certainly do better. I encourage you to speak to your representative when you want to know, what can I do if this bothers you? If any of these issues we talk about here concerns you, people say, what can I do? Contact your state legislator. Contact your federal representative. Very easy to do at the Minnesota House of Representatives. You go to the Minnesota House of Representatives online, you Google that, you bring it up, and it'll have member information. You click on that, everything is there. You see my picture, you see my email, my phone number, and you contact the person. There's even places on websites, if you don't know who your representative is, you give them what town you live in. Minnesota House of Representatives has this. You give them what town you live in, and they'll give you your state representative, and they'll give you your state senator or your U.S. congressman, your state senator. This is your government, people. This is your opportunity to speak out and say what you want. If you don't like the way these omnibus bills work, speak to your individual representative. We had some movement this year that both Republicans and Democrats agreed we need to get rid of these large omnibus bills and we need to go back to single subject. But it's only going to get across the line and get signed into law if you contact us and say that we need to have this done. So we're going to wrap it up here. I thank you for your time. I hope this subject was of interest to you. If there's something that you'd like me to talk about, please contact us. Let me know. Comment on this feed below. We'll have my contact. I believe Josh has my contact information on there. Josh, my trusty engineer who's helping me with this. Let us know what you want to talk about, and we'll certainly bring that up. If you have questions about something that I talked about today or another time, please let us know that as well. So this is Legisplaining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll